I'll take anything. I'll take anything that isn't their 2025 roster. I'll take any player that wasn't. Like, I'm fully expecting to hear the Indiana Fever have traded their 10th pick for cash considerations. And I don't know, maybe you throw in Dennis Schroeder. Maybe you throw in Dennis Schroeder in the deal to match salaries or something. But like, the Aces are probably running it back. I'll talk about that in a video later for 1 year. And my guess is that
Free agency has been moving at a rapid pace across the WNBA, and the Indiana Fever have been notably absent from the activity. While other franchises are announcing signings and confirming deals, Indiana has produced almost no movement, and with the official signing period closing in, the silence is becoming difficult to ignore. Every hour that passes brings another name off the board. The latest is Naz Hillman, who agreed to a 3-year contract with the Atlanta Dream.
1 year. And my guess is that to afford Jewel Lloyd for 1 year, you have to pay her for 3 years. Which is why, obviously, there's a 1 year deal, like a 1 year deal in, what's her name? Jackie Young, is that it's probably it's a last dance thing for the Aces, being like, look, we can't afford it all long term. But if you sign 1 year deals, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Chelsea Gray signing a multiple year deal, where instead of her taking a max, my guess is that Jewel Lloyd is probably somebody
That deal is part of a broader picture that raises a genuine question about roster construction. On paper, it is going to be very hard for the Fever to assemble a team that stacks up favorably against what Atlanta is building. Very hard. The only Fever-related report that has surfaced came through an unofficial channel, noting that Brazilian forward Damiris Dantas may be returning. Whether Indiana even extended her a minimum contract remains unclear, and Dantas alone does not address the depth concerns that have been building throughout the offseason.
My guess is that Jewel Lloyd is probably somebody that might have been offered 800k elsewhere, and they might be able to get her, instead of getting her for 800k on 1 year, they might have been able to get her for a 3 year, 1.5 mil. And then she obviously goes she goes out and wins a title. If you guys don't know, she is one of those like really high end Nike deals, so she probably is making a good bit of money from that. Dearica Hamby.
Meanwhile, the New York Liberty are in active discussions with several of the names most commonly linked to Indiana. Mo Billings, Alana Smith, and Lexi Hull have all reportedly drawn Liberty interest. On the whole situation specifically, the assumption that she would automatically return to Indiana for less money out of loyalty or comfort deserves some scrutiny. New York offers its own appeal. Market size, visibility, and a winning environment are not trivial factors for a player making a significant career decision.
Probably is making a good bit of money from that. Dearica Hamby has taken LA Sparks out of her bio. I don't think she's on the Fever's radar. Brittany Sykes has signed for a $1.2 million deal, which means Lexi Hull's getting the bag. Probably not from Indiana. But Lexi Hull's probably getting the bag. Marina Mabrey signed a 2-year max with the Tempo. So the Tempo are trying to be competitive. And by the way, Brittany Sykes just being relentless. She's the type, and same with, I think this is a backcourt that really fits. Because you've got two players that can shoot.
If Indiana does not match what New York puts on the table, Hull making the move that serves her best interests would be entirely reasonable. What makes Indiana's inactivity particularly concerning is the broader roster picture. Running back the same group essentially means Caitlin Clark enters next season as the only true point guard on the roster. That is not a workable situation.
Because you've got two players that can shoot you out of games, but also can shoot you into wins. So I think you're going to win enough games from just the two of these, just shooting you into wins. But at the same time, it's we're hearing all this free agency news and we've got nothing. And then obviously I'm no longer making 2K videos into get notifications from my team stuff. But we're hearing news from every other team, and the only free agency news we've heard from the Fever is from.
On top of that, Clark herself is approaching a contract year where she will be eligible for a Supermax extension. A front office that fails to build a credible roster around her heading into that period is taking a serious risk. Players of Clark's caliber have options, and a franchise that asks its best player to operate without adequate support while also asking her to take reduced pay is not making a compelling case for loyalty. Elsewhere around the league, things are moving quickly.
But we're hearing news from every other team, and the only free agency news we've heard from the Fever is from Roberta, who obviously She's the Storm link. She is the Brazil link who reported a Brazilian player in Demirs Dantas coming back. And like, I don't hate Demirs Dantas, but I don't think the Fever gave her a minimum. I don't think the Fever gave her a minimum. Like you've now got some of the Valkyries beat writers talking about Gabby Williams, who's leaving, potentially being a
Brittany Sykes signed a $1.2 million deal. Marina Mabrey agreed to a 2-year max with a Tempo, signaling that franchise's intent to compete. The Aces appear to be running things back largely intact for one more season, though the financial math around Jewell Loyd and Chelsea Gray suggests multi-year versus single-year decisions are being weighed carefully.
Potentially being a Valk, and I'm actually really scared that the Indiana Fever on paper are going to have the 7th best roster in the WNBA. And I understand that like they're big three, they have the best big three, but you need more in the big three. Like you say, the Aces only had a big three, but I'm like, they had like Jewell Loyd was their 5th best player. Jewell Loyd is their 5th best player, and like
De'Erica Hamby has quietly removed the sparks from her social media bio, suggesting her situation there may be changing. Gabby Williams is also drawing interest from the Valkyries as she potentially departs her current team. Beat writers around multiple franchises are already reporting which players their teams are targeting.
Best player, and like they had Aja Wilson and they have Becky Hammon, who, whatever you want to think about Steph White, she's not as good a coach as Becky Hammon. Hey, Becky Hammon, probably, had she stuck to Spurs, would have been the first female NBA head coach. I don't think she would be hired now. This is very different. Like, if she's there with the Spurs and this, all those players were there and she had just stuck beside Pop and Wemby respected her, she'd...
No equivalent reporting has emerged from the Indiana side. No names, no confirmed interest, no leaked conversations from player agents, nothing. The closer the signing window gets, the more that silence starts to look less like patience and more like a problem.
And how the Chicago Sky felt about her, and my goodness, wow. Her teammates were not having her anymore. They were done with her. The Chicago Sky were done with her. It's unbelievable. Yahoo Sports, Chicago Sky officially parted ways.
The Chicago Sky's decision to trade Angel Reese to the Atlanta Dream is looking less like a basketball move and more like an organizational reset, one that, according to those close to the situation, was driven as much by locker room dynamics as by anything happening on the court. The trade itself sent Reese to Atlanta in exchange for first-round draft picks in 2027 and 2028. On the surface, giving up a player of Reese's profile for future picks might seem like a step backward for Chicago.
With Angel Reese shipping the star forward to the Atlanta Dream in exchange first-round draft picks in 2027, 2028. This reporter predicts that the Sky will be long-term winners in that trade. Uh-oh. Just about anybody can find someone with a field goal percentage in the 30s. Ooh, boy. And pads the old rebounding stats as a result. I said.
The reality of the situation, however, suggests the Sky got the better end of this deal. A player shooting in the mid-3-0s from the field, whose rebounding numbers are inflated by proximity to missed shots rather than elite positioning or effort, is replaceable. 2 first-round picks over consecutive years give a front office genuine building material.
Result, I said, Chicago Sky will win more games than they won last year this upcoming year. That's my prediction. Reese contributions are all about making Reese look better on the stat sheet. Having 2 first-round draft picks for the next 2 years, however, a franchise can go ahead and create a formidable starting squad if you play your cards right. Well, they already traded for Rickea Jackson. And there's some...
Chicago has already moved to acquire Rickea Jackson and has been connected to Skylar Diggins in the offseason market, suggesting the rebuild has direction and momentum behind it. The more striking element of the fallout is what anonymous sources are saying about the climate inside the Sky's locker room. Reports from those close to the organization describe widespread relief following the trade.
Rumors about Skylar Diggins right now. Chicago Sky, they're doing a little something out there. But even more of a benefit is the fact that, according to some reports, Chicago Sky players are thrilled that Angel Reese is gone, making it pretty obvious she was viewed as a locker room cancer.
One insider described the relationship between Reese and her teammates as strained for an extended period, stating that the entire group is happy to move on from the controversies she brought, whether those arose from her own choices or from circumstances around her. The same source was direct in saying the trade was made specifically for the health of the organization, with teammates having grown increasingly frustrated before the decision was finalized. Those sentiments did not emerge in a vacuum.
Whoa. Well, we all remember Haley Van Liv looking like somebody. You remember the fake smile? The, oh my God, what has happened to me? I just got drafted to play with Angel Reese. We remember that video at the draft. It went viral. Angel Reese spotted for the first time since bombshell trade. Yeah, she's cut all of her hair off.
Reese publicly criticized her own teammates last season, suggesting the roster lacked the quality needed to compete at a higher level, remarks that landed poorly given that she was simultaneously the most visible player on that team and not performing at a level that justified the criticism. Comments directed at veteran Courtney Vandersloot, a respected figure in the league, while Reese herself was struggling with basic finishing at the rim, only deepened the resentment. Multiple early exits from games over the course of the season, leaving teammates to close out without her, added another layer of frustration to an already tense environment.
Yeah, she's cut all of her hair off, I believe. Let's just look. Right here. Yep, or she has no hair, whatever. That's cute. All right. Chicago Sky players reportedly sick of Angel Reese as locker room relief hits after trade. They're relieved like they took some Alka-Seltzer. While Angel Reese quickly embraced her new chapter, celebrating on social media instead.
There is also a recruiting dimension worth considering. The Sky were attempting to attract free agents and arrange trades throughout the offseason while Reese was still on the roster. It is entirely plausible that certain players were reluctant to join Chicago specifically because of her presence, a factor that would have quietly poisoned negotiations without ever becoming publicly visible.
Angel Reese quickly embraced her new chapter, celebrating on social media and stepping out into public with her new hairdo. An anonymous source close to the Chicago organization claims the move has brought significant relief inside their locker room. Yeah, you're not going to be inside clogging everything up, and Camila Cardoso can now get off. She can now go berserk, and you ain't in the way. It's going to help on the court, I'm telling y'all right now. Some of the quotes.
Once she was moved, that obstacle disappeared. Reese herself appeared unbothered by the trade publicly, debuting a new look on social media and presenting the move to Atlanta as a fresh opportunity. Whether that optimism carries into a new locker room remains the central question.
Help on the court, I'm telling y'all right now. Some of the quotes reported by the Daily Mail are brutal. Quote, there has been so much apprehension between the team and her, and everyone is happy they don't have to deal with her various controversies. Whether she brings it on herself or otherwise, the insider said. There is no love lost, and when Angel returns for a game with her new team, she will be the enemy. But everyone with the Sky is very happy she is gone. Wow.
The same patterns that exhausted her Chicago teammates, the public criticism, the early departures, the controversies travel with a player regardless of what jersey they are wearing. The Dream will find out soon enough whether the situation in Chicago was a product of that particular environment or something more deeply ingrained. The first meeting between Reese and her former team is currently scheduled for June 9th, and the Sky players waiting to